witness is Mr. Greg Kutz. He's the Managing Director of Forensic Audits and Special Investigations at GAO. The FSI unit investigates waste, fraud, and abuse related to government programs and taxpayers' dollars. FSI has investigated abuses of Hurricane Katrina relief dollars, border security, and overtime, and minimum wage complaints, among other topics. Welcome.
Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Hub Zone program. Last year I testified that this program was highly vulnerable to fraud and abuse, citing 10 cases here in the Washington, D.C. area. My testimony today has two parts. First, I will discuss our investigation of cases outside of the D.C. area, and second, I will discuss SBA's actions to address fraud and abuse. First, we identified 19 additional cases of Hub Zone fraud in Alabama, California, and Texas. These firms received $30 million of Hub Zone contracts. In all 19 cases, these firms recently made false statements regarding their program eligibility. The following three cases give you a flavor for the types of fraud that we identified. First, one Alabama contractor listed their principal office as being in a Hub Zone, which, as you know, is a key program requirement. However, as shown on the monitor, this office was actually a residential trailer reported to SBA as being suite number 19. The person actually living in this trailer had no apparent relationship to this company. The real principal office for this company was 90 miles away and not in a Hub Zone. Second, a Texas Hub Zone firm was being used as a front for large companies. This services firm was required to perform at least 50% of the work using Hub Zone employees. However, our work showed that between 71 and 89% of the work was actually being subcontracted out. The owner told us that large firms like hers are used by, or Hub Zone company firms like hers, are used by large companies as contracting vehicles. And third, only 5 of 38, or 13%, of a California company's employees lived in a Hub Zone. This firm falsely represented that it met the requirement that 35% of its employees live in a Hub Zone. I can't project these 19 cases to all Hub Zone firms. However, these 19 cases, along with the 10 from my testimony last year, clearly show that the potential for fraud in this program is substantial. As of January 2009, there were 9,300 firms listed as being eligible for this program. It's not hard to imagine that hundreds or perhaps thousands of these firms are not eligible for this program. Moving on to my second point, SBA does not have an effective fraud prevention program. The good news is that SBA recognized this and is taking steps to implement an effective program. The bad news is that they are closer to the beginning than the end of this process. An effective fraud prevention program includes prevention, monitoring, and investigations with consequences. Prevention is clearly the most important element of the program. SBA has recognized this, and as mentioned was by the other witness, has an interim process in place to screen applications. However, this process was not adequately field tested and thus has had some unintended consequences. Due at least in part to the lack of staffing, this process has resulted in a backlog of about 800 applications as of January of 2009. I would describe this as a growing pain of moving from what was in essence a self-certification process to what hopefully will be an effective fraud prevention program. In addition to the recommendations we made last year, we are making 4 new recommendations in a report we are releasing today. One of the key recommendations is for SBA to use unannounced site visits. As we have developed our 29 fraud cases over the last year, it is clear that for site visits, the element of surprise is critical. For example, in the case I just described, our surprise visit revealed that no company employees actually worked in trailer number 19. The picture on the monitor shows the row of mailboxes outside of this trailer as they appeared during our site visit. The next picture on the monitor shows the shiny new mailbox that appeared with the company name on it shortly after our surprise visit. According to the United States Postal Service, this mailbox is not a deliverable address. This case clearly shows the kind of deception that owners will use and the value of a surprise site visit. In conclusion, as was mentioned, it appears that fraud and abuse in this program exists across the country. The victims of this fraud include the American taxpayer, legitimate hub zone firms, and the communities that were supposed to benefit from this program. Perhaps the most troubling fraud scheme is the use of hub zone firms as a front to funnel money to large companies. Madam Chairwoman, I want to commend you and the committee for taking steps today to clean up this program. That ends my statement. I look forward to your questions.